Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This week. Jerry is out. He's got COVID, he thinks so, or says. So Jerry, get better. Hope you get to feeling better quick. And Bill, I guess, is still in Europe, playing with the funny money over there or something. I'm not sure what he's doing, but anyway, he'll be back hopefully next week or the week after. In the meantime, you're stuck with us three again. And we do have kind of a topic to get started with today, but I'm gonna let Steve do the chat rundown first.
Oh man, we got some new people in there. Wow. Anyway, Mark Pruitt, good morning. Eagle Creek, I guess your name is Ben. Awesome. Okay. Lots of Johns. We were talking about Johns, and Claude, you can go on that. We got Schuylkill River Valley, Almar, Rob T-Man, John Tandillo, Stephen Wigwag. Let's see. We got Chris Brew, my buddy Chris. Good morning. How are you? Kyle Stevens, get your internet fixed. We need you on the show. New one, Rick's River Raisin Trains. That's cool. And Hot Dog Pilot Andy. You got to tell us where that one comes from. That is really good. We got Roy Hardwick, JD. Good morning. Excuse me. We got Steve Anderson. We got hello. Gerald Stewart. Who did I miss? I know there's some flipping down. Anyway, good morning.
More Johns than a Bordello.
I know.
Not more than a Buc-ee's. For all you guys in Texas know what Buc-ee's is, you'll agree with me there. We don't have that many Johns.
We got all the Johns get a
number. Anyway, we Dennis and I decided we had a pretty good topic to start with. We're going to pressure Steve to tear down his layout because he's having trouble getting to some stuff that's behind it. So we're going to pressure him into tearing it down and redesigning and rebuilding. Since he also said last week, I believe he said he always had trouble with the track work, and he would do that differently. So now you got a chance to do it differently, Steve.
Yeah, there's a ground fault interrupter, two of them behind the layout that he can't get to.
Oh, I get to
it's an easy decision. Destroy the layout, tear it down, and rebuild it.
Well,
so that you can get to those better.
Yeah. Well,
see, you can take that desk out of there too. So you go proper bench work for the layout.
Yeah.
There's some woodworking possibilities there, I think.
When I built this shop, I never considered a layout. That was just going to be an office, just kind of an office with, all the trinkets and man cave stuff. And this was going to be the shop side. And I got two circuits on each side. I got one for the lights, and then the circuits are on each side. And I kept blowing the GFI because my dad's joiner is old, so I've been working on that. I've been tweaking woodworking tools. I'll get down a rabbit hole because I was redoing kitchen cabinets and refinishing that the last 3 weeks. But I got that all done, and I kind of got the bug to get back into woodworking. So I've been tweaking all my woodworking tools. And anyway, long story short, is working on the joint. And these are old Craftsman stuff that my dad had, and it kept blowing the GFI circuit, and I couldn't remember where I put it. When I built this thing almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I couldn't locate it, and I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be in the office. And I'm looking, and I can't find, and I realized that it's on the walls behind the layout when I put the desk in. And anybody that followed that build, for 3 years ago or whatever it was kind of piecemeal. So I never blew the GFI circuit until just recently. And I've got to get down on my back underneath the desk and reach up behind. And I got about an inch between the wall and the corner of the desk to hit that GFI circuit. And it's just, plus the circuit panel is behind the fascia for the backdrop, behind the big mountain that I can't even get to. Because
all very good reasons for a redesign.
That's
But
exactly what I was thinking of.
Tearing down the layout. Let's just think of it as redesigning and making it better than it is now.
Well, the problem is, once the wife finds out I'm tearing it down, I'll never get it built again.
Oh, yeah, you will.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, he's not motivated to.
Re-bragging
Because
you did it.
that's one of the questions that I asked previously, and this is a good question for chat. And I don't know how many people have actually completed a railroad, but does a person enjoy their railroad after completion as much or more than the process of building it?
That's a good point.
Well, I'll start off on answering that.
I know with the time saver, I enjoy running the time saver, but because there's no, I guess, continuing scenario with it, and because it's the same game every time you play it, it's kind of lost its appeal to me to operate. Mm-hmm. But if I had to say one way or the other, I would say I enjoyed creating it far more than I have enjoyed using it to this point. Now, I think the second I get tracked to it, from up and around, it will take on a whole new life because it will be part of a bigger game.
Yeah. Now, I was going to say, I probably, and I'm not finished and haven't really started running mine yet, as it can be done. So I think I will have more fun building it probably than I will running it, but I don't know yet because I'm not there. I'm hoping I have as much fun running it, and I think I will. I know I'm going to have a lot more fun once I get all the upper deck in and get the base terrain down. I know I'm going to have more fun finalizing all the detail on it, which will happen while it's being run also. So I'm really looking forward to that part of it. That's what's really motivating me right now. That and the fact that I got to get it up there before I can't get up the stairs anymore.
Well, I know the operation of this layout, even though I've got the staging yard, I've got Silver Gulch, and I've got Frying Pan. So just bouncing back and forth between those locations has been the most enjoyable model railroad experience I've had. And I had 2 in-scale layouts before this one that were never scenic, but the track work was completed on them. But I always hated having to pretend to go from one location to another because they were never more than, I think the longest straight line run I may have had was 6 feet, and so therefore, my operating rule with the last layout was that you had to go around the loop twice before stopping at every location. And, it worked, but it's nothing like this where you actually get a sense of going to someplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed. I understand that completely. That was always my problem with layouts that I had before. Even the 4x12 that I had in my bedroom back in high school, double line main track, but it didn't really go anywhere. It was a double line main track figure 8 with a yard and a spur or 2, and that was it. So it was mainly for just turning it on and letting it run. You didn't really have that sense of going someplace.
Yeah, Chris Brew He's never finished one. Same thing with live steam. I enjoy building more than operating. So, yeah.
Well, and that's, you know, that's a lot of it. I think a lot of model railroaders, they like trains, but what they don't realize what they like is the creative part of creating something. I know I get a lot of joy out of making something. I know Steve does. And I know you do too, Dennis. It's that artsy part of your personality
Well,
that you like making something from nothing.
Yeah.
well, you know, back to what Chris said, you know, then that goes back to the live steam stuff. You know, building is the joy, which I kind of missed with this because I was on such a breakneck, you know, time window to get it done and operating for the triennial, which I never made, that I kind of missed out on the joy of building this thing because I did it so fast that now it's done, and it's like, well, you know, I could have spread that out longer and had that joy of building it rather than the frustration of rushing it to get it done.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
because Chris is building a, I think you're building a Heisler now, and Chris is actually a master machinist. You ought to be on the show, Chris. Show everybody the stuff that you've done.
Yeah, I know for me, you know, I have been a modeler in one form or fashion nearly my entire life. And, you know, I got into modeling by doing tabletop miniatures and painting those and stuff like that. And the goal there was always to play the game. You know, you paint up your army and get them looking good, and then you put them on the field, and yeah, it looks good, and then you play the game. You know, but if you're, say, modeling cars, airplanes, which I did a lot of as well, you get it finished and you go, yeah, that looks great, and then you can put it someplace, but you can't do anything with it. And to me, that's what makes model railroading kind of the greatest hobby in the world, you know, which we say that all the time, but after you get finished modeling it, there's a purpose for it. Mm-hmm. And that purpose, you know, is just seeing your models do something that you can't with like an airplane or other than remote control. But, you know, I know what would happen if I built a nice remote control airplane. It would go.
But that's true. The RC stuff gives you that chance, whether you're doing cars or airplanes, to build something and then see it perform, and that is very, very, very satisfying.
Yeah.
Even the ones that I built for other people that I never flew myself, getting to see them fly, being there for their maiden and being nervous about whether or not it was going to fly properly. Well, you never know till you put it in the air. All you can do is do everything you're supposed to do, and then hopefully it works well. But yeah, some of the ones that I built, the last couple that I built, pretty good sized airplanes, and they flew great. Of course, they had good pilots, so that helped. If I'd have been flying them, they probably wouldn't have turned out as well. But yeah, that kind of part is fun. You know, slot cars. Now the HO size, not so much, but the 124. Some of those little bigger ones where you could build your own cars, especially when you used to go down and rent track time to run at a community track. I liked working on those when I was a kid. That was a lot of fun.
But are they actually scale models though? And do you have scale model scenery to go along with?
Your voice is
freezer to freeze.
Yeah. You know, Rock T Man, he's got a good point too. He likes sharing it more than operating it by yourself. That's true. It kind of, you know, it's fun sharing what you've done almost as much as building it, because that's the same thing with the live steam hobby. It attracts so much that you love sharing it with other people as opposed to enjoying it by yourself.
Yeah, well, and that holds true even with our layouts as far as being on the internet. the whole reason all of us are on the internet is to see other people's layouts and what they're doing. Show our stuff, but to see what other people are doing too. So, you know, whether we want to admit it or not, we're all a little bit creative, some more, some less, but we're all still relatively creative in what we're doing, or we wouldn't be doing this hobby. Because I guarantee you, I don't think trains in them themselves are enough to motivate everybody. Otherwise, you just have models of trains. I mean, that's my opinion, but what do I know?
Jack's got a good question. Throw it up there.
Let's hit that one. Would you rather be doing building the layout, or being frustrated that the layout is done and you don't like it, so you start over? There you go, Steve.
That's for sure why you don't do scenery before you've verified that the layout works the way you want it to. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I want to do scenery so bad, but I've kind of forced myself to step back and make sure that I don't do anything that I might regret because of operating issues. But I mean, just to be honest, so far, almost all of my operating issues that I can detect is coming from specific models, not the track work. The track work seems to be pretty solid. And the way the layout operates, you know, the design, I guess you would say, is all jiving the way I thought it should. So, but I do, I seriously want a mountain and some trees somewhere before the end of next year. That's kind of a goal, is I want to have at least one section. I'm thinking maybe right here in front of my workbench might be the first place that actually gets some scenery, because there's going to be nothing complicated there that I might have to rebuild.
I'm just reading chat here. Oh, I like what Rick says. My wife says I'm on Money Pit 3. She says no, Money Pit 4. I'm sure you're not alone there, Rick. What's the old adage? The old saying is, when I die, I hope my wife sells it for what it's worth and not what I told her it was worth.
Not what I told her it's for, yeah.
And Mark says he's doing scenery in some spots while he's still doing basic construction in other parts of the layout. Well, that's what I did. I did my basic scenery, and I still have lots of trees to put in, but a lot of that's waiting until I get the rest of the track put in. But like in my mining district, a lot of that scenery is done except for the detail stuff and more trees. But the basic stuff is down because I know the track work works. And I do it that way as I go. I know my yard works okay. At least it did the last time I ran it a couple of years ago. But it's got the basic ground stuff down. It still needs, you know, all the detail stuff, but the detail stuff isn't going to affect the track work. So, you know, you can do it that way too. Get your basic stuff down and have that down, ballast and stuff like that. Once you know the track is working good, you can do it that way.
Yeah. See, my whole plan was to get to this point here, above this, and then, you know, maybe start working backwards with scenery while at the same time moving forwards with more track work. Because I wanted to make sure that all of this frying pan, you know, I was about half convinced that was not going to work and I was going to have to redesign the entire layout. But surprisingly enough, everything is working well. And it's been several months. I mean, I've had several solo operating sessions in there that I feel confident that it's going to work the way I want it to.
Rob T. Man says that's why a lot of people enjoy building modules. You can finish one and start another, making it better each time, which is true. Every time I go to a train show, almost all of the layouts you see are modular. And I'm thinking, that would be a great way to model if you were part of a club where you could take your module and go combine it with somebody else. The only bad thing about that is if you don't have a place to set it up at home, even a couple of modules long, you can't really do anything on your module because it's not long enough. But that is a great way, especially for people who live in apartments, things like that, where they can only have one module maybe, but at least they have something they can work on. Let's see, I was looking at some other stuff.
Oh, we got Pappy in chat. Long time no see, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, Pappy, good to see you. Saw something. Oh, Wilmer had something to say. Personally hate track work, but love building structures and doing scenery. Love doing operations. That goes with, there's always something you really like doing on your layout, and there's always going to be something you really don't like doing. And I think everybody's that way. There's going to be something on there that you don't like doing that you have to do to get it running. And then there's going to be stuff that you really prefer to do.
The funny thing is a lot of people don't like ballasting, I guess, but I enjoyed ballast. That kind of finished the main line. I thought that was enjoyable.
I would say ballasting is right up there in the top 5 or so things that I don't enjoy.
Yeah, I like doing scenery. Ballasting's not one of them, not one of the things, but it's also a necessary thing. In most cases, depending on what kind of layout you're doing. So like on my ballasting on my mining district, because it's not up on a road bed, it looks more like what you'd see on a regular narrow gauge, which is down on the dirt. It's a little easier to do in that case. When I've got it up on the road bed, that makes the ballasting a little more difficult because you've got the slope of the road bed.
Well, I didn't know that ballasting can take a good running railroad and turn it into a crappy one.
Oh yeah, very easy.
That's what I found in my in-scale. That's one of the reasons why I stopped doing anything in my previous in-scale layout is I ballasted my entire yard, and I immediately started having derailments as a result, which took a lot of the joy out of operating the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of the decision to go to HO. There were several different things that kind of lined up with each other. The building, a trip to the Durango and Silverton, and the poor running of the in-scale trains across turnouts that led me to where I'm at now.
Yeah, because N-scale is a little bit less a bad ballasting job.
Yeah. And if you're also crossing poorly constructed joints of plywood that change with humidity and temperature because you chose to build your railroad right underneath a window where even in the summertime, there might be a difference of temperature from the morning to the evening and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, Allie's got a good one here. You have to have your weekly dose of remedial ballasting therapy. And I would guess that would be true, especially if you're drinking heavily at the time.
Well, she also said we're ballasting wrong.
Yeah. Well, ballasting can be, it's one of those things that it can really add to your model railroad, but it can be a real pain sometimes to get it just right. And I think part of the problem I have is I tend to pick the wrong size ballast.
Always go smaller.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I would never ballast HO track with HO scale. I will never do it. I will always use in scale or literally dirt.
Yeah,
I used a lot
of the way to do it.
Well, that's what I've done. I'm sorry, Steve, what'd you say?
No, I made my own ballast, and in a lot of cases, and I use dirt because it actually.
Well, that's what I've done on the narrow gauge part of mine. Has gone to the real fine ballast that actually looks like dirt almost, and it does. It's so much easier. So much easier. the HO size ballast is just way too big, and it's the only saving grace is it's easy to, if you find a place where you've got it in a flangeway or something, it's easy to get out because you can see it. but it is way too big, I think, too. And
yeah.
now that
If you
I've
end
got
up
all
with,
that done, I'm not worried about it. But
if you end up with a chunk of it, or lots of chunks of it up on top of the ties, you know, the scale size of that piece of ballast as it appears on a tie is like a small boulder.
yeah,
And you just don't see that on a real railroad. Those rocks are, you know, they're little bitty rocks, but that's not how they appear on a modeled railroad. Generally, that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Is I don't want anything to be on top of the ties that looks like it wouldn't be there in real life. And HO scale ballast, in my opinion, is one of those things.
yeah. Another thing I would do that I didn't even dawn on me to do before I got all my hand laying stuff done was some guys that do hand laying. They put their ties down, they stain them or paint them or whatever, then they ballast and make sure the top
Then they
is
lay
good,
the
and
rails.
then lay their rail in.
That's exactly how I wanted to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I were
That would
to
be the way
hand
to do
lay,
it.
that's how I'd want to do it.
If you're hand laying, that's definitely going to be the way to do it. The trick there is getting your ties, making sure your ties are exactly where they need to be, but that would make your track work much more reliable, and you're not going to be in there trying to sweep out the loose stuff and all that. But anyway, what do we got here next? Oh, excuse me.
Well, Roy Hardwick likes ballasting, he says. He had used fine ballast and extra fine ballast for a few small areas that he completed. So. And Rick says for his O scale, he uses paper lows as it's brown, and I don't care about the color.
What is this ballast magic system? Is
I don't know,
that the gadget that Heath had on?
I don't know. It sounds like he likes it, but Jeff says it's crap until you learn how to use it.
Yeah, I've got the old one that you set on the rails and you put your ballast in there and you can adjust how fast it comes out. And I tried it, and it actually took me longer to do it that way than doing it just with a spoon or something.
Yeah,
I used a baby spoon and a brush.
Yeah,
A little bitty paintbrush.
There again, it's probably because the HO scale ballast is too big, and that's what most everybody's going to default to. Is it's here's HO size, that's what I want. You know, I don't know that we really think about that beforehand. But, you know, like I say, ballasting is like everything else. You know, some people love the bench work. Some people don't like doing the bench work. You know, wiring, scenery, you know, painting stuff, whatever it is. There's always going to be people that like it and people that don't like it. But that's the great thing about the hobby is it's got so many different aspects to it that you have something you can find that you really like doing.
Well, Joseph ballast magic is a dry glue you mix with the ballast.
Okay. John says it's sold by Yankee Dabbler. It's something like wallpaper paste in a special mix. A powder glue that you put into rocks, then spray water on, so it's kind of like grout. You mix it in with the ballast, and then.
Oh, okay.
That's what Steve is kind of saying, is if I understand that.
Jack says, okay, would you rather use cork bed or no cork bed? I'm assuming you're talking about like the Midwest cork road bed. For me, for a mainline, it's great because it gives the shape of the mainline ballast and all that kind of stuff. But anywhere I'm not in a mainline situation on mine. I've gone to just sheet cork for the whole thing and laying it right flat on that because that's what the narrow gauge would have done. and still do. But now your big mainline, even your sidings and stuff on a major railroad are not going to be like that for the most part. You might find a few places where it's looks like that, but you're almost going to have to use it everywhere.
Things that I haven't done yet that I plan on doing is at some point on a spur, because I'm using the same kind of sheet cork idea that Claude is using, and that's actually sink the ties into the cork so that you end up with a buried rail that actually is more prototypical of a well-used spur. Because you can, by using the cork sheet, you can go up or you can go down either way, depending on how you want to go about doing it.
How do you go down? Dig out the cork after
you mill it out with a Dremel.
Oh, okay.
And I've seen a guy that he buried his entire main line into foam by doing the same thing, by milling it out just enough that your ties go completely into the foam. But I've never liked foam as any kind of road bed. I think it's probably fine for modules, but to me it's noisy, and I don't like working with the foam. I would rather be on plywood and cork.
I actually preferred laying track on Homosote.
Homosote's good too, yeah.
But now if you're going to do a mainline run with it, you either got to buy it already cut that way, or put up with the mess that it makes trying to get it there. Because if you're going to lay everything flat on the sheet with no actual raised road bed, Homosote is, man, that's the best way to go, I think. I've been using it for years in model railroading, and it's a sound deadener. It holds spikes well. It holds glue. It holds paint. It doesn't swell. When you put water on it, it doesn't swell. It's just a really good material. The problem is finding it.
Yeah, you have
got to go to a major distributor.
I even have special order the 1/8" Masonite. I can't get that here.
Yeah, well, I can get at Home Depot here in town, but the Homosote, nobody in town carries it. I had to go to a wholesaler, buy it through Home Depot, and go to their wholesaler to get it. And even then, they've got it stuck back in the back because nobody uses it anymore. They used to use it for ceilings or for roofs on flat roof systems. They used to use it on that before they put the tar and stuff down. But I don't know that they do that anymore, use it for much anymore, because they just don't carry very much of it here in town.
Yeah.
But it is very, very good to use. Just wear a mask when you're cutting it for sure. Menards
cut it with a knife. That's what I did.
Well, that's nice. A Menard sells it. The problem is we don't have any Menards around here. That's a upper Midwest thing, I think.
Never.
What's Roy say?
He says that's why y'all building big layouts. You should have friends are close to where you live so they can come over and do their thing on your layout.
Well, that's the internet's problem or fault. Because
nobody lives close to me.
Probably had we not had the internet, and had this kind of setup. I don't know that there've been too many of us. I have been lucky enough to meet some people that I met on the internet and never even really talked to them face to face until I got off the airplane and met them in the airport. I got a chance to do that twice several years ago. And that was interesting. But there again, we met on the internet. Even though we were in a game, we weren't face to face. But without that, I'd have never met them ever. So the internet does have some good things to it. It's, you just have to pick the right stuff.
Well, throw Chris' comment up there. I didn't even know you did any model railroading, Chris. I thought you just did the big stuff. Maybe you should.
I would model an industry. I would lay the rail directly to the plywood and then ballast to stimulate buried track. Use cheap car with oversized flanges to clear the flangeways. Huh? That would work.
Yeah.
But that's the way of doing it, Dennis. Get you some homosoap and then lay the rail right on the homosoap.
There you go.
That would.
Well, I mean, if you lay it right on the cork, you can mill that cork out down, especially if you're using 1/4 inch. You know, I don't know what the thickness of this is, but it's nowhere near a 1/4 inch. I could bury this all the way down beneath the railhead if you wanted to.
Yeah.
On 1/4 inch cork. Without the mess, the same kind of mess.
Yeah.
And I think that cork mills out a lot easier than homosoap would too. The homosoap, I don't know. I've never milled homosoap to know what it would do, but it's paper, right?
It's going to be dusty. Anytime you cut homosoap, unless you're cutting it with a knife, which is tedious, it's going to have a lot of dust to it. That's the one big drawback of homosoap.
Oh boy, yeah.
But it would work well. As far as covering the track too, you could always build your landscape material up to it and make it look like it's buried.
Right.
I kind of did that on my back in my yard against my flats where it's actually in the asphalt. You know, I just poured the asphalt, smooth the asphalt right over top of it, and then just cleared the flangeways.
That's my plan with the cork is I can create something that looks like roadbed simply by cutting away or cutting back down to the plywood anywhere along the rail. I just make the decision to do it, cut it, chisel it out, because that cork chisels out pretty easily, even if it's well glued to your plywood.
I saw somebody's on here. I was going to try and find it. It's going by so quick. Oh. Bernard. He said, I can even find women on the internet. Oh, TMI, man, TMI. Okay. Oh. One of these days, Bernard. Hey, Sparky, good to see you. I'm way behind on chat here. I'm trying to scroll through this. Anyway,
I'm trying to find something.
I did finish this last Monday. So
Woo.
oh, that looks good.
Kind of see what's going on. Just again, I took something from the internet and put across that back wall so that it looks like there's something further back there.
Yeah.
And then I added another row of windows behind that, the front row windows, because I believe that's what the prototype had, something similar. And it's ready to go in the block of wood now. I don't know if I'll finish it today or this weekend, but I should be finished with it by the end of next weekend with the whole building, hopefully.
Yeah, it looks good. Well, I was painting on the church when we did the beams on Monday, and I got down my back again, so I didn't get a lot done. But yesterday I got quite a bit done on it. But everything's just in pieces still, so it's really nothing to show. I got most of the painting done on it, and I'm just starting to put the walls up on it. But I'll show that next week when I get finished with it.
Hey, have you noticed that we've got 38 people in chat? Our chat's been getting bigger every week.
I show
going so fast. I can't keep up with it.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody, man.
Yeah.
Now we're up to 40.
Yeah.
We usually only
thanks, guys. And John, are you still here?
Which John? We already discussed that we have more Johns than a Bordello.
Yeah, John 2618.
Our pilot. Yeah.
We
40 people in
We're talking about that triangle. Should we continue that? Wanted to talk about the triangle. Okay, well, now that you mentioned that, Jack.
Oh, I can show my triangle.
Yeah, why don't you get your camera, show it, and in the meantime, I'll show them what I was showing you earlier.
Oh, that's right. We were supposed to get on Alley about talking about triangles.
Okay, I'm one of the friends of the Cumbers and Toltec, so I get to see CNTS Dispatch twice, well, not twice a month, every other month. This is a really good magazine, especially if you're a short line or narrow gauge enthusiast. This is a track plan, and it's got a triangle on it. This is the top of the pass at Cumbers. This was the original track plan. And I haven't read the article yet, so I'm not sure what they're referring to, but this is a little bit different. They changed some of it. Let me get the camera right here. Some of these buildings have been refurbished. But this is the top of it. And in fact, in one place, one of the legs of the Y, you can see they had a covered turntable because this is at excess of 10,000 feet. So, but this is one place that the Cumbers and Toltec goes through, and they do have a triangle there still.
Hey, Sparky's got a good point. He said 40 people in chat and 22 of them are named John.
Yeah, no doubt. It's starting to be like a Bucky's. Lots of Johns.
And speaking of John 618, we want to get you on the show if you're ever home long enough to do it.
Okay, here we go.
So yeah, this.
Go ahead, Steve. Oh, no, Sparky says nothing ever changes. Steve still can't get a word in.
So this is the sheet of plywood that is generally just to the left of where I sit in chat, you know, when we're doing the show. And here's a triangle. Now I'm still working on the overall track plan because I'm not entirely sure how I want it to work, but it's an interchange. And this piece of track here continues out another probably 3 to 4 feet. I don't remember exactly, but that's just going to be for one dedicated train and locomotive to work these two interchange tracks right here. And then I'd like to get another yard track in here, like interchange track, yard track, and then I would like 3 to 4 spurs somewhere in here. Michael McCarville has got a real nice Texaco station that I'm thinking I might put one turnout here and then put that Texaco station right in here. I'm still kind of working on the overall design, but the idea is to have an interchange and then, you know, 4 spurs here. This should be able to keep one operator well busy during an operating session.
Allie says she's glad we got the terminology correct this week.
Yeah, triangle.
Hey, I can tear my layout down and build one big triangle.
There you go.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, just one big triangle.
Now this is a number 8Y, and I built that right on top of the template. I didn't have a jig for that, so I just kind of free-handed it a little bit, but I think it's going to work well. And I think I'm going to build 2 more for back here. I think that's how that's going to work. But I don't want to get too carried away until I know exact, because I'm going to have a crossover here. And I've got the 2 turnouts built. I just need to mesh them together to create the crossover. But I don't know. I'm enjoying this process.
Jack wants to know what's the radius.
This is 22 inch. I can't. I mean, it's the narrowest is 22 inch, and then this I can't remember what that is. it's 24. So everything that I've operated on my layout has worked well on 20-inch radiuses. I've got a couple of 18-inch radiuses here and there, and everything's working on them. So I'm just doing my best to keep everything at a 20 or greater if I can. And of course, this is where, you know, there's going to be a trestle going across here. So you have to kind of imagine, nice. You're going to have to imagine the landforms in here, and then this goes all the way around the room to the other corner. That's what I'm calling the high line. And that's going to the mining district, which, you know, Claude and I never discussed his layout and my layout before we started, but there's a lot of similarities to what he's doing and what I'm doing. Well, he just got finished with his triangle, and I'm just now starting to work on mine.
Well, Dennis, the reason for that is they're both narrow gauge.
Yeah.
That was the whole purpose of the narrow gauge railroad, was to go through the mountains. And what do you have in the mountains? You got mining.
Yeah.
So that was a huge industry for them and revenue source. So it's no wonder that we're both doing a mining district, but
Kyle, Bermuda Triangle, Dennis, have you seen some of the tools?
Do what?
Kyle says the Bermuda Triangle, ? Dennis. Have you seen some of my missing tools?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, there you go. Well, look in your other hand. That's usually where mine are.
Well, I guess John, our pilot, would avoid the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, this is where all that goes, right here. This corner.
Oh, I'm confusing Sparky. I always do it backwards. Okay. I'm left-handed.
I don't know what Sparky's talking about, Steve. Do you know what he's talking about?
I put the likes, the thumbs up, and the viewers words. I guess I'm supposed to put the bigger number first, but I'm left-handed.
Oh, well, you know.
And I'm left. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, anyway, that's going to be nice. Is that going to be a timber trestle across there?
That's the plan.
That'll look good.
It'll be a while before I get to building it. You know, my plan with all of those trestles is if I've got the spline glued, I just cut on either side, and then I've got my radius already made for me. Mm-hmm. I can trace that radius on a piece of paper and start building it from there.
Yeah. Well, that's similar to what I did on mine, where the narrow gauge trestle is on the front of the mountain, going into the snow shed. Excuse me. I laid that flex track in there because I use flex track inside the mountain. But I laid that flex track there, and it hung in the air with no support for a long time. And then the bridge just got built underneath it. So I already had the tractor and the radius there. So all I had to do is build some support underneath it, and it worked real well. But that was a very short span too. It's not a real long span. Excuse me.
Yeah, I've got a lot of bridges that I'm going to need to build, and I've never built one in my life. So I'm curious how it's all going to work. I've got a lot of bridges planned and no experience.
Go. This is what I did, and this is where I met Mike McCarville. Was on his channel. I was looking up how to build trestles, and he's got some good videos on that.
That's how I found him too.
Yeah. So go back and look at those because he did some really good stuff on there.
There's another guy, Lex Parker is another one that does a really good tutorial on trestle bents and how to build them. Mm-hmm. He's O scale, but all all the techniques apply.
Yeah. Well, and you can also find I've got some paperwork somewhere that shows different railroads, some of the different railroads, how they built their bents and how they built their bridges from that. And that's what I used on my big timber trestle, that S-shaped one I've got. Those bents came off of, I don't remember which railroad it was, if it was in the east or in the west, but it was somebody's stats that I use. That's what I built my template from, that I built all those.
Yeah.
Claude, put up
Yes.
put up Sparky's comment. That's fun.
This one?
Yeah, about parking the bus at Hooters.
That's someone else says park at the Hooters. I said, go read your post for the explanation. Yeah, I'm sure you were there for the wings, right?
That's right.
Oh,
There's
I don't know if anybody's been in a Hooters. I've been in one. We've got one here in town, and I've been in there one time. In fact, the wife and kids, we all went in, and I did notice one thing about the
Brought
Hooters.
your kids?
Yeah, we didn't have lunch, and
I think if they found my bus parked at Hooters, I'm probably going to lose my job.
Yeah, the one thing I did notice is they don't have any padding on their seats. That's so they can get the client turnover. Yeah, the chairs get a little rough to sit on after a while, but otherwise, guys would never leave out of there, I don't think. No, it's not near as bad as everybody kind of makes it out to be. That's for sure. At least it's not here in town, but.
Hey, Jack, that's a good field trip. Take the bus to Hooters. Wings and cheese.
Wings and cheese.
Wings and cheese.
Oh boy, rabbit hole.
Okay, Rick says, what's Rick say here? I stink at building the bench work because I'm not smart enough to figure out angle cuts. I struggle a lot doing it.
Just
Rick,
draw.
You can build bench work pretty much without a lot of angle cuts.
Overlap what it is you're wanting to cut. You know, if you got 2 lengths of plywood or whatever it is, overlap them, get them at the angle that you want, regardless of knowing what it is. Draw a line, and then move your miter saw. Or if you don't have a miter saw, then just use your jigsaw, and you've got the angle that you want.
You can cut them actually if you overlap them. If you brace those 2 pieces either side, you can just take your saw and cut right through the middle of it, and those will match up then. Yeah,
you can actually build the overlap and put feet on it and do what you want, and then do your cut at the end. That's how I did all of this, was just laying it on the floor first. I started with, anybody saw my blue tape, but I put blue tape across the entire room to show where I wanted my aisles to be. And then I just started putting crap on the floor, overlaying things. Where do I want the substructure for the bench work to be? And literally just laid stuff on top of it before I ever made any final cuts, and then I had my angles there, took a pencil, took it out, cut it, put it back in. And it doesn't have to be perfect, as long as everything stands and it's not rickety, you can overlap what you need to overlap and create the strength that you need later too.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing L girder bench work, you really don't have any angle cuts. You don't need angle cuts. You can make them, and it makes it a little neater, maybe on your cross braces and stuff like that. But you really don't need any angle cuts. But if you're struggling doing angle cuts, find you an inexpensive miter saw for cutting 1x material, stuff like that. But for your plywood, yeah, just overlap it and zip it down the middle, then those 2 pieces will fit together. And Chris Bruce said, what did he say here? The chat is derailed and lying in the ditch upside down with the driver spinning. I'm missing something in chat, evidently.
Going back.
That's probably back when we were talking about Hooters. How we ended up talking about Hooters and buses and kids and field trips.
Somebody talked about stopping at Hooters. I don't know.
No, Sparky.
It was Sparky, right?
Sparky.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to derail us. That's for sure.
No.
I've mentioned it before. There's a definitive book on bench work that I suggest anybody to go out and get, and it's by Lynn Westcott.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of what the book's called, but it's like the bench work book or something like that.
Yeah, I've got it over here somewhere.
It is, in my opinion, bench work 101, and really even more than 101. Any type of bench work, because he goes through all of the different styles of bench work. It's not just L girder. There's all different kinds of techniques that you can intermesh with each other, because I'm not using the same bench work everywhere. Most of it's L girder, but there's places where I didn't use L girder, and I won't use, I think, any L girder stuff as I go around. I think it's going to be a much different style of bench work than what I've used to this point.
Yeah, most of mine is L girder as far as the lower deck, but once I got to the mountain, that's not L girder. That's built in place as I went up. And if you go see on my channel, look for one of the videos that shows the Matterhorn at Disneyland being built, because that's exactly what it reminded me of. I had seen that picture years and years ago of them building the Matterhorn, and the Matterhorn was kind of the same way. They built it kind of as they went, because they'd never built anything like that before for an amusement park. And so they were kind of going by the seat of their pants. And I kind of did the same thing with the mountain, because I knew I had some features I wanted to put in it, but I wasn't sure how it was going to come out. And so I had to build it in place, and that was interesting, to say the least. But you can, you can mix and match, like Dennis said, you can mix and match your bench work, but bench work for the most part shouldn't be hard to do. If you've got some levels and tape measure and some clamps, and then bucket of screws.
Clamps are, the more clamps you have, the easier it's going to be. If you can put things in place, non-permanent, take a look at it, ask yourself, is this going to work? Then you can go back and make it permanent. Mm-hmm. Having clamps is, which I've got all of Claude's. Claude gave me every clamp he owned.
You can never have too many clamps.
Yeah.
And I was looking for some a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going, where the hell did I put on my clamps? And I realized, Dennis has got them all.
Right now, most of them are holding up my spline around the corner here.
Yeah, I had all those because I used to do solid surface countertop work, and I had to have them for that. So I had a bunch of clamps. And that's not even all of them I had. I had probably 3 times as many as I brought you. But anyway, yeah, the spring clamps, 2-inch spring clamps, 4-inch spring clamps come in real handy when you're doing, especially a big layout, come in real handy for that sort of thing. How much time we got? Well, we got a minute and a half left. I can't believe we actually stopped before we ran over.
Jack wanted to know what's the smallest helix to build an HO. That would all be dependent on the equipment you're going to run.
Yeah. I would never get any tighter than 18.
I wouldn't dare go any smaller than 18-inch on this railroad, and I think that would still be too small. 20-inch is the smallest I would consider, but I would really rather it be 24-inch. I think I could build a 24-inch helix and feel like I would be okay with any other equipment I might run on it in the future.
Well, and the tighter the radius too in that helix, so you can put more pull on the drawbar on the engine and your train.
Right.
Yeah. Tighter the curve, the more it adds to your angle of climb. So Yeah, and there's charts for that. That one grade, what was that place called? Grade Boy Calculator or something like that.
Railboy grade calculator, I think is what it's
Railroad.
called. I can't remember if Railboy's one word or two, but that's what I use for everything I did. Very accurate, very easy to use, because you can introduce whatever radius you have into the grade that you're climbing, and it will tell you the effective radius or the effective grade regardless of the actual grade.
Yeah.
So you might have a 2-inch or a 2% grade, but when you add in an 18-inch radius to it, that turns it into like a 3% grade. And knowing that before you build is very valuable, because if you've done testing and you know that I can't pull 10 cars on a 3% grade, you might not want to build a 3% grade or something that will be equivalent to a 3% grade.
Yeah, exactly. And then it is a really good website, because it shows you all kinds of stuff that you can like just plug in your parameters, and it'll give you what you should do, or what it will be if you build it at that. So, well, that's our hour, guys. Thanks for being here, and Steve and Dennis, good to see you guys again. Hopefully Bill will be back next week or the week after. I'm not sure which. And Jerry, hope you get to feeling better, dude. And until next week, take care.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Forgot it is Thanksgiving.
Because we are not having a show next Saturday, correct?
Yeah, let's take next week off, guys. It is Thanksgiving. I forgot all about that, and we'll meet up the week after. So
I'll
weeks
have
from today will be our next
5
show.
full days to work on the railroad next week.
Yeah. Dennis is slobbering on himself already.
Yep.
Okay. Well, everybody have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in 2 weeks
Okay.
from today. Take
Peace
care.
out.